It's time to reflect on the moments of the year, brought to you by orgaretro.com, including the likes of this Cavan jersey here. You can get that at orgaretro.com. Put in the promo code RGame and you get 15% off. Michael Verney, we've thrown it out to the viewers out there. We want to see what the moments of the year are, both club and county. There's so many, aren't there?
Well, who would have thought, Shane, when Mark Keane scored that goal, that would nearly be an afterthought a couple of weeks later? Like, I thought when I saw that, and like that was one of the most dramatic evenings in the GA I can remember. But then all of a sudden, like a couple of weeks later, it's almost, not that it's a non-entity, but it was just forgotten. And it just that typifies the amount of drama we had, and that's just the county season. That's not even taking in a club season where there was an unbelievable amount of drama as well. Last minute scores, last minute catches. It was unreal, and as well as that, you kind of forget things that happened like back in January. Like, it seems like 5 years ago, genuinely, like. Yeah. And there's so many things, and in fairness to everybody getting in touch there with their own moment, there's kind of so many different reminders of different things that you maybe would have forgotten about.
Yeah, we'll bring someone up on the screen here, but is there one in particular that's after jumping out in terms of the replies we've gotten?
No, well, I tell you what, one of my own mates was on to me there, Shane Murphy from Clarine. He actually said, and I thought this was interesting because it's a moment of the year or a highlight, but in a real kind of a weird type of a way. He said Sligo having to pull out a championship, and you're just thinking, like, in the sense of, like, when would this have ever happened before? Something like this, that something health related would have caused a county to pull out of a championship. So, like, if you're to sum up like how weird 2020 was, that would definitely be a moment in itself. Like, when has that ever happened before? You're going back to like foot and mouth, or you're going back to something from the plague, like many moons ago. Do you know what I mean?
Was there a TB or something like that? Jeez, I feel like in the 40s or something. I'd have to look it up. But
there was. Pat Bland keeps going back on about it. About, you know, there was only a certain amount of teams played. I think it was back in the 40s, and I think it was due to TB.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, some brilliant moments in the football championship in both club and county, and couldn't agree with you more. It feels like a million years ago, some of these games in the club championship that were probably only 3 months ago as we're talking now. So I'm just going to bring it up on screen, some of the replies we've had here, because as I said, there were great replies in. I'm just going to go to the football ones only, and I'll scroll past any of the hurling ones for now. So Mark Keane's goal, says Siobhan Doyle. Tullarone's last gasp point in the All-Ireland final, and Tips Munster win and all the history that went with it. MD says Dungannon for me. How many of their games went to extra time and penalties? Plus some brilliant football played. I think I brought it up there. I was just trying to have a look at who got the semi-final winner. It was Kieran Barker. He slotted over, I think it was a 45 to win that game. Any thoughts on that? I mean, Michael Devlin is adding in here as well. The club Tyrone Senior Football Championship final, Dungannon's Clark's winning on penalties, which was unbelievable, first win in 65 years. And in the county, the Ulster final, Cavan's triumph, and in particular Conor Madden's goal to seal it, which was a brilliant goal, albeit I'm sure from a Donegal point of view they're very frustrated with it.
Yeah, well, I'd say, like, if you're looking back, November 22nd, as Jonathan Davey said, replied to me here on Twitter, he just said, November 22nd and the provincial final double upset, some romance still to be found at inter-county level. And I suppose this year of all years, and considering how, you know, lopsided provincial championships have been for a long time, for those two things to happen within the space of a couple of hours, like, the Cavan win it wasn't unbelievable because, you know, it was fathomable. You could see it happening, but just the nature of it. I suppose if you scroll back to like Ray Galligan's kick against Monaghan to bring them to extra time, or did he score one to? I think he scored one to win it by one as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
It's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like things like that. You're just like not expecting things like that to happen. Monaghan looked. I remember watching that game on Sky, and you're thinking Monaghan were in absolute cruise control. All of a sudden, Cavan come back, this unbelievable win, and then, you know, 3 or 4 weeks later they're celebrating a provincial win that you just couldn't have predicted coming. And like, one of the moments for me of the year is that BBC Sport Northern Ireland interview with Mickey Graham after, where he actually can't talk. Your man says to him, you know, with all the hardship, Cavan has been, load of COVID, lots of people dying, things like that. What does this mean to you? And he actually just had to leave. He was just and that to me, that is what it's all about. And like, I'm not from Cavan. I don't have any relations in Cavan. I don't have any association with Cavan, and that would tug at your heartstrings the more than Colin O'Riordan's speech after the Munster final, like all those things, you feel part of them, even though you're not part of either of the teams, you feel part of them, and that's just what the GA is.
Yeah, without doubt. There was another tweet in going the flip side way from John Lally saying, "Oh, McLaughlin's last second tackle versus Galway, who would have been true on goal had he not been taken out." So a black card moment was for for Mr. Lally, a memorable moment. I can't say I fully agree with that, but I know where you're coming from, all right, at the same time. Cahill at Hallcat tweets said the Mark Keane goal against Cork for Cork against Kerry, which was an unbelievable moment. I have to say, the reason that I would say that's up there for a moment of the year and can't be too far off at all, even though Cork didn't go on and make good in the Munster final, was I was just in shock for hours after it. That's the impact it had. Just did not see it coming. Luke Connolly, he pulled the trigger with a shot from, he was out 40 yards
inside. An awful shot.
Yeah, it was an awful shot, and it dropped short, and you're just like, oh, that's kind of their chance gone. And all of a sudden it's in the net, and you're just like this. And I think people from every county all over Ireland, except for Kerry, obviously, everyone was just like this. And it's sort of like, it's not your county. I mean, Cork have been downtrodden for several years in football, so I think everyone was delighted to see them do it. So you're just like, wow, and just in a state of shock for hours.
As well as that, Mark Keane's goal probably set about a mad kind of sliding doors moment. I don't know if Colin O'Riordan would have played the Munster final if it hadn't been for Mark Keane's goal. So they obviously had an example of, here's an AFL player that's playing for his county. You know how much Tipperary means to me. We'll go back to the Swans and see will they maybe let Colin O'Riordan play. I actually remember, I can't remember where, I was in Port Leash that day. I think after we were playing Kildare the same day that evening, and I actually texted Colin O'Riordan because I actually taught him in Templemore when I was on teaching practice, and I thought I'd be in touch with him the odd time just if he'd do a piece or something like that. And I said, you're surely gonna reconsider like trying to play for Tip or something, with a laughing face, kind of just messing really, to be honest with you, after Mark Keane's goal. And I got no response back. He'd usually always respond, and then all of a sudden a day or two later he was eligible to play the Munster final and ends up helping Tipperary win Munster. So it was just kind of mad the way, in a roundabout way, Mark Keane's goal also had effect on them probably not winning the Munster final in a crazy kind of a way.
Not to mention made things a bit easier for Dublin as well, because even if Kerry didn't perform that well, if they had to get through, they probably would have learned, okay, maybe we don't need to pick our team like this, maybe we don't need to be cynical, maybe we need to pick Killian's plan, whatever it might be. But that had a huge knock-on effect for the All-Ireland as well. Because if everyone thought Dublin were a bit more susceptible this year, given that Mayo were sort of in year one of a rebuild, if you will, Kerry should have been in a better spot to try and take advantage. But anyway, they didn't, and there you go. Louise Hinacon, she says, Club, Kilmaroy won a Mayo Junior title in 2016, Intermediate County title in 2019, and now have retained senior status 2 years in a row while not even having much funding in place or fancy facilities. With County Mayo GEA winning the county championship. Ronan Quirk says Conor Sweeney's point against Limerick, that was obviously the free over at the sideline that sent it to extra time. And who would have thought at that stage Tipperary would go on to end up winning the Munster Championship.
It's funny though, Shane, how one thing that it's obviously significant at the time, but it doesn't seem that significant, and then it has this chain of events almost. Like if you hadn't put that point over, we wouldn't have been talking about November 22nd in Tipperary, and we wouldn't have been talking about the centenary jersey. We wouldn't have been talking about anything.
We wouldn't. Now I'm going to bring up on screen a picture that Around the Square sent in. So we can see this here. That's obviously Raymond Gallagher's winner at the end of the game against Monaghan. That was a brilliant moment. And here's the same man lifting the Ulster title. John McMahon says, not even up for debate, Shane. And of course there's plenty of people who feel that way. Martin Nguyen, Cork's last minute goal against Kerry was pretty jaw-dropping. Also, it opened it up for that side of the draw for Tip to win Munster and ultimately to face Mayo to get back to another All-Ireland final without having to face the might of Kerry along the way. So actually that's why I even mentioned that, because he brought that up. Don't foul, here's a catch, saying here's a catch from Mick Foley. An absolutely brilliant catch under pressure towards the end of the game.
That's literally the last play in the Kildare County final. They're trying to dethrone Moorfield, who have been a massive powerhouse obviously over the last decade. A dangerous ball goes in the edge of the square. What you expect only someone to get a touch on it, and Mick Foley catches it and comes out, and the whistle literally goes with the ball in his hands. And I think there were one of the viewers has said that was his last action.
It actually wasn't. No doubt. Don't Foul got on to me privately since it's not his last last one, but he did end up as man of the match in that game.
Yeah, it's not a bad way to finish. Like, that's dream scenario. Win the county final and having to, like, you actually said it in another video. How many times does it happen that there's been an iconic player finishing with the ball at the end of an All Ireland? Remember Tommy Walsh running out with the ball in his hands, I think in 2009. You'd probably say who happened in the hurling final? Who did it happen to this year?
Dan Morrissey.
Dan Morrissey, yeah. Like, it's funny, and Mick Foley actually drops to his knees with the ball in his hands. It's just brilliant. Like, that's, as club moments go, that's right up there.
Yeah, Mount Bellew, my lock, finally beating Corofin. I think it was like 7 county titles in a row, 40 odd matches without being beaten, and then of course they get beaten by Mike Cullen in the final. So often we see it that someone else does the hard work for you.
Yeah, like, that was mad. Like, to be honest, that's one of those things that Corofin been beaten, it's almost like you'd forgotten about it, just because, you know, it seems like so long ago, and maybe because it wasn't in the county final, and then you'd go and see like the Mike Cullen lads winning the county final as well. Then, yeah, like, having been intermediate in recent years, it's absolutely unbelievable. There's been so many like unbelievable football moments this year, but really I think it does go back to November 22nd, you know, when you're in the heat of the hunt, a lot of them, when you're picking like the moment of the year.
Oh yeah, I mean that one day of Tipperary and Cavan both winning, and it's sealing the same semi-finalists from 100 years ago. Like, it was incredible stuff. It felt like it was written in the stars, and the Cavan one was brilliant, and we probably haven't even mentioned Thomas Galligan and how heroic he was. But yeah, you can't, like, from my point of view, I think everyone would understand that I would say Tipperary winning that Munster final against Cork was just absolute magic. The look on David Power's face, you know, he's completely overwhelmed, and you know all the effort he's put in over the years, going out, you know, like trying to collect money outside Semple Stadium and Tipperary are playing a hurling match for the Tipperary footballers, and how many county managers have to do that? Not too many. You think of like Colin Reardon, obviously coming back, he's pursuing his AFL dream, and coming back and playing as he did. And remember when he got the ball, he won 3 kickouts in a row in the second half, went off on an endless run, bouncing off different players before I think he won a free later on in that move. And just the final whistle going, and Conor Sweeney's celebration, and, you know, some of Michael Quinlan's points. I think that final whistle against Cork, that for me anyway, is my football moment of the year. Others will, you know, they might look at what happened up in Tyrone or different places as well in the club championship, but that for me had to be it.
Yeah, I'm an absolute romantic. Like, I had goosebumps even like talking about it or listening about anything like that. And like, to be honest, there were so many things happened during the year, but I think that day, the Tipperary win was unreal. But like, the Cavan win was just like, that was just off the charts. The fact that they'd been relegated to Division 3 a couple of weeks before the week before the championship started, actually, they beat Monaghan in extra time, when you think maybe like that they could have maybe missed their chance in normal time. They go and beat Down, having been so far behind against them. They go and beat Antrim, probably their worst performance, and then they save probably their best to last against Donegal. And just even seeing, there was a few of them up on it. They were up on a trailer in Clonus, and there was cars driving past, beeping the horn. No one was getting out of their cars. Just even like, that's such a moment of 2020 as well, where there normally would have been people swamped everywhere. And then there was that brilliant image of Michael Murphy just standing, looking at the Cavan boys, soaking it all in. The more than like that, the pictures the photographers got in Crow Park the other night of the Dublin lads lifting the trophy, and you say Diarmuid O'Connor looking up at them, or Aidan O'Shea looking up at them as they're walking down the tunnel. Just brilliant, kind of sums up the agony and ecstasy of it. But it would be Cavan for me. Like, just, that was absolute magic. But like, as days go, like, we'll still be talking about that day in 30-40 years time, when you're thinking of the great GA days. Like, that was a super Sunday, and you'll never forget. And like, the fact that the 4 All-Ireland semi-finalists end up the exact same as 1920, like, you literally could not write that.
No, you could. A quick word, I think, for Ballymun winning that county title, and the small brothers had lost their dad last year, so that was obviously a big one for them, and a brilliant county title win. Are we doing a disservice to Dublin by not celebrating, or by not picking something that they did as a moment of the year? I just find it so difficult, because they cantered past teams. It's not an anti-Dublin thing, but they just, you know, fairly well hammered teams most of the time.
Yeah, what are the moments you usually remember? It's, you know, it's not a goal scored when you're 5 points up. It's a goal scored when you're 2 down, or when the game is in a melting pot, or a point kick to win a game, like Dean Rock's free off the ground a couple of years ago, and all the pressure that came with that. there wasn't really, that many moments this year. Tell you one thing that stands out actually, and it was against Dublin, is Ray Connellan's point off his left boot over by the corner flag. That was absolutely, he had no right to take it on. I know you were chatting him a couple of days after. He had absolutely no right to take it on, and it was just before half time. And you're just thinking, if there'd been a crowd there, they would have went absolutely mental. But no Dublin thing really stands out for me. One thing maybe, it just the sheer power that Con was able to generate for a fisted goal in the All-Ireland final was absolutely outrageous. It was literally like, a Pete Sampras smash back in the day, the power he was able to get behind it. But I think probably the 5 in a row is probably more memorable in many ways than the 6 in a row, because of the struggle that came with the 5 in a row and getting over the history line, I suppose. So I don't think we're doing a disservice to them. I don't know if there were that many, really, really outstanding moments.
Yeah, some of the games were drab enough. I will say a quick word on Kieran Kilkenny's goal against Leash. I think it was hand pass through. He'd done the backdoor cut when he went in behind his man, and he volleyed it first time into the net. So that was quite impressive. But like even the goals, they scored 8 goals in the championship. Only 3 of them were with the foot. So that, I think we all kind of, I hate the fisted and well, I actually don't mind a punched goal, but like those palmed goals, I mean, just ban them instantly, and fisted points along with them. They had nothing to the game. They actually sucked the excitement out of the situation. Anyway, this is about celebrating the moments of the year, so I won't get caught up in that. But Brian Howard's performance off the bench is something to be celebrated, and that beautiful point he got. What a player.
Well, if you go back through, some of Dublin's All-Ireland wins, you're looking at Kevin McMenamin turning games. You're probably looking at Owen O'Gara turning a couple of games. You're looking at Cormac Costello turning the game in 16, the replay game in 16. And probably Brian Howard had his kind of, time absolutely turning the game. Could easily have ended up man of the match in the All-Ireland final. Had a couple of quid on Con to be man of the match. I don't know if he deserved to be man of the match. I think Brian Howard probably had more of an influence on the game. But as, coming on, at half time in an All-Ireland final, and to be mentally in that position where you're treating it like you're starting the game, you're not showing any sort of a strap rat like that, and you're delivering for your team like that. Like a lot of the real, Kenny O'Connor, Oisin Mullen, these guys weren't able to get in the ball in the second half, and a lot of it was to do with his introduction.
Yeah, and I think most of this stuff comes down to the finals and the silverware, and like what Dungan and Clarks did, what Cavan and Tipperary. Conor McKenna coming back and making an impact. I know it's not just one moment, but it's a few. Derek Hannivan's brilliant goal, I thought that was class against Donegal. So there's a million one things we could probably talk all day. But we'll leave it there. But please comment in and let us know if there's any moments that we left out or that should be rated number 1. For me, as I said, it is Tipperary winning that Munster title. You've said Cavan as well. So that's it. This is the Cavan jersey. If you want to get this jersey, go to orgaretro.com, put in the promo code OurGame, and you get 15% off, as you will for every other jersey that they have there. Thanks very much, Michael.
Come on, cheers, chat.